Hello and good morning friends, welcome to the CEC-UGC live lecture. Dear friends, with our ongoing series on marketing management, today we would be talking on public relations, personal selling and sales management, and for this discussion we have once again with us in our studios Dr. Garima Gupta. Dr. Garima Gupta is Associate Professor in Faculty of Management Studies, Delhi University. So let's welcome our guest Dr. Garima Gupta and let's try to get in-depth knowledge on public relations, personal selling and sales management. Hello ma'am, welcome to the DSET lecture.
Thank you ma'am. Okay students, so today we would be learning about public relations, personal selling and sales management. Before that, I would like to give you some idea about what we did as a recap in the previous session. Towards the end of this session, we would also wrap up everything that we have learned so far insofar as marketing promotions is concerned. So, just giving you a recall of the previous sessions, we had discussed about advertising in detail. We have also discussed about sales promotions. Let us quickly come up with the points of differences between sales promotions and advertising, just in order to build up your link with the two promotional tools that we have covered. So students, we had discussed that sales promotions are nothing but a temporal means through which the marketeers tend to promote and stimulate the demand of their goods and services. As against this, we have seen that advertising is something which is more indirect and a subtle approach to create the brand awareness. When we come to create a distinction between the two, we see that the impact of advertising lasts much longer in comparison to sales promotion schemes. Also, the sales promotion schemes, because of the very fact that they create an inducement, an enjoyment and an urgency in the consumers to respond, we find that the feedback or the response is much more instantaneous in comparison to what we get to see in advertising. So, it is not likely that a person comes across or is exposed to an advertising campaign and would there and then make up his mind to buy that particular brand. So, the overall process takes much more time and there is much more time lag in between when the consumer is exposed to an advertisement and he responds to the same. Whereas in case of sales promotion, the response is much more instantaneous, because you know that you would be getting the benefit of the sales promotion schemes only if you act fast during that period when the sales promotion scheme is being offered by the manufacturers or the marketeers. Also, we see that while the advertising communication is very powerful form of communication when it comes to communicating about the value proposition of the product, but when it comes to sales promotion schemes, we say that the value and the price proposition is altered, because many a times when as a consumer we come across the sales promotion scheme, we believe that probably the marketeer or the manufacturer, he has compromised with the quality, and as a result of that he has lowered down the prices and he has come up with the sales promotion offer. So that value and the price proposition actually takes a flip when we talk about sales promotion schemes. Lastly, when we talk about advertising, we say that this is a tool which can be used for building the brand. So, it's a brand building kind of an exercise when we use the advertising campaigns, and in many of the companies and the sectors, we know that advertising, though it is not catering to the direct consumers in a direct fashion, but is still coming up in a big way when it comes to placing the brand in a certain manner is concerned. As against this, we say that sales promotion is unlikely to accomplish anything which has to do with the brand building exercise. On the contrary, we had seen in some of the previous lectures that sales promotion, if it is used on a continuous basis, may actually dilute the brand and may have a detrimental impact on the brand equity. Students, now let us take the entire discussion on marketing promotions forward by today talking about public relations. Now, when we talk about public relations, we say that it can be defined as a management function which evaluates public attitudes, identifies the policies and procedures of an organization with the public interest, and executes a program of action or communication to earn public understanding and acceptance. In simpler words, we can put it as creating a positive image and reputation of the company in the eyes of the general public, in the eyes of the internal audience also and external audience also. So we'd say over the years we have seen that because of lot of clutter in the marketing communication domain, the companies want to come up with something which is going to create that kind of distinction, at the same time is able to place the company in a favorable manner in the eyes of the TG. And for that role, we have seen that public relation has seen an explosive growth over last few years or last decade or so. Also, we have seen that marketing of late has become closely interrelated and interlinked with PR as an activity, so much so that they are increasingly being linked together. As a matter of fact, we can understand public relation as being placed on a continuum. So when we see at the earlier role or the conventional role or the traditional role of PR, we see that PR was placed on an extreme side of a continuum, where you would see that it is not assuming, or it was so far not assuming, a marketing function strictly. Rather than doing that, the whole process was more related on establishing the interlinkages and interdependencies between various functions which you exercise in the organization or whatever you do on the organization on one hand, and the general public on the other hand. So you used to interact with both of them using PR as an effective tool, but PR on that side of the continuum used to have a non-marketing role. On the other side of the extreme, or you can say on the second side of the extreme, you now have a new role of PR which is more looked at as a marketing role or a marketing function of PR activity. So much so that we find that they are closely being knitted in an organization, and one needs to understand the marketing function and the marketing objectives very clearly in order to exercise the public relation role in an organization. So we see that the entire process actually has to be planned very methodologically, and one has to duly take care of the marketing activities and marketing functions being performed in an organization in order to closely link it with the PR exercise. So if we talk about the public relation process, we would see that it starts from research. Now, what kind of research you would be having in case of public relations? So here the research would be more centered around understanding the public attitude. Now, students, we know that consumer these days assumes a lot of power, in the sense that if the consumer doesn't want a particular kind of a product, they can go to such a kind of an extreme whereby they can say no to the product, they can reject the product offerings, they can also go to the extent of exercising consumer boycott. So they would be boycotting that particular kind of a product which they feel is either not good for the consumers for one reason or the other, or is doing some harm to the society at large, or there is something wrong with the product quality, or there is some sort of a controversy attached with a particular kind of a product, and therefore consumers say no, we don't want that, and there is a large scale consumer boycott of the brand or the product. So under such a light, it becomes very important for an organization or a firm who is into public relations or who want to exercise public relation as a powerful tool to understand as to what kind of consumer attitude or public attitude is there with respect to that particular product, so that that attitude can be built on if it is a positive kind of an indication, and it can be improved on if you see that there is a negative attitude and you want to improve on that aspect in order to change that negative attitude into a more positive one. The second stage involves establishing a PR plan. So it's just like you do in case of any other function in an organization, even your PR activities to be planned in a logical manner and in a systematic manner, for which one needs to understand few things. Like one, you need to integrate your overall PR activity and your PR plan with your marketing communication program. As I have hinted at one of the places that these days the firms are more concentrating on integrated marketing communication program, so that whatever tool of marketing communication you are using, it has to be embedded well, it has to be aligned well with the other tools and the other activities that the organization is pursuing. So the PR activity also is to be embedded well with the overall marketing communication program of the organization. Secondly, you should know that your PR program should either build awareness in the TG with respect to what kind of product you have, what kind of company it is, what kind of policies and programs do you take forward, so that you know the organization well, not only in terms of the products and services, but we can say that PR goes beyond it, right? So it is not only the product and the services that you are marketing through this kind of a marketing promotion tool, but you are taking the company forward, you are trying to build up a good reputation for that particular company. You want people to know more about the company in terms of its policies, in terms of its programs, in terms of its image, in terms of the other aspects. So it's a reaching beyond and building awareness about the company as an entity as a whole. You want to also build credibility. So I just don't want people to come to my organization to buy a good or service, but I also want them to know about my company and to see my organization as a credible one. And PR is going to do some work in that direction. Also, I want to stimulate at times my sales force, and I want to motivate them. I want to feel them good that they are working with such a good organization. So I want to project my PR and my company in a certain manner so that they also feel good that they are working with such a credible organization. And again, PR is something which is going to be more feasible as a tool in this kind of a role. We also see that over a time period, your advertising eats a lot of money. Your sales promotion activity also turns out to be expensive at times. So it's you need some other kind of tools to balance your promotional cost. And therefore, we say that PR activities are something which are very, very cost effective if you compare them with the other tools which the marketeer may have at their disposal. So it's the overall role of balancing the promotional cost or bringing the promotional cost. This is again which an organization can do if you can gel your other marketing tools along with your PR activities, which will surely help you in bringing your or lowering down your promotional costs. As a third stage, we say that PR has a role to play where the PR is going to be defining the TG. Now, when we talk about defining the target audience, we see that target audience for a public relation activity can be categorized as your internal audience and as your external audience. Now, when you talk about your internal audience, you mean these are the people who are close to the organization, or in a sense they are internal to the organization because they transact quite often with the organization. And this transaction could be as, say, part of the customer group, the current customer group. It could be as a part of the employees, it could be as a part of media, it could be as a part of government, it could be as a part of public at large, society at large, it could be as a part of suppliers. So we say there are so many groups who interact with the organization in different capacities, but some of them are more internal and they are more regular with their transactions with the organization, and there are some groups which are external, like the public at large. So I may not be dealing with the organization directly in some capacity, but still I may get affected and I may get bothered with what the organization is doing on a whole, because I am also a part of the public at large. So let's say I have to define the target audience in the sense that whatever activities I want to undertake, do I want to undertake them for my internal audience and I want to carry out my public relation activities for the internal audience, or I want to do it for the external audience, or a general kind of an activity for public at large. At the fourth stage, we say that one has to choose a PR message and a vehicle. So let's say what exactly you want to communicate. You want to talk more about your products and services, you want to talk about your policies and programs, you want to talk about the organization as a whole, you want to talk about a controversial issue, and you want to clear the air that nothing is wrong and nothing is fishy about the organization, all is good. So what is exactly that you want to put in your message? Also, when we say what are the vehicles and what are the tools that you would be using for the same purpose, so would you be using, say, only one tool and one kind of a vehicle to do that exercise because you know that your target audience is more exposed to a particular kind of vehicle, or you want to have a blend of the tools that you want to use? And we would in the subsequent slides see what can be the various tools and the vehicles with which PR can be managed. At the fifth level, we say once I have decided on my objectives and my plan and my TG and my vehicles and the message, I would be taking it forward in terms of implementing my personal program or my PR program. Then I say I would be at the end evaluating the PR results. So, let's say if I am doing all this exercise of reputation building for my company, I would be naturally interested in knowing to what extent it has worked, and for that I would be falling down on certain metrics like exposures. So how many people were now exposed to my PR campaign and my public relation activities, what is the level of awareness and comprehension, what is the level of the attitudinal change. So like after holding press conferences or after holding events, has the thought process of my target audience changed when it comes to company? Are they now viewing the organization in a better light? And obviously the sales and the profit contribution. So it's if people start developing a favorable attitude and if people start developing a positive image about the company, it is going to reflect somewhere in the form of, say, they buying my products and brands. So my sales is also going to go up, my profit contribution is also going to go up. So in a way, directly or indirectly, I would be able to tap the impact of my PR activities on the working and on the prosperity and success of the organization as a whole. Now, having done that, let us come and see as to what can be the possible tools of my public relation activity. So, when I talk about the tools of my public relation activities, I have certain tools in my baskets where I can go for publication. So, the companies can often come out with the publications of their own where they would be talking about what the organization does. Many a times you would have seen that the companies come up with their own information bulletins, they come up with their newsletters, and these are the publications, the in-house publications of the company, just in order to make people aware of what all the company does. So, you get to know a broader view of the overall activities which the organization pursues and is not only restricted to telling them about your products and services. They will say you can plan certain events, and through those events you can let people know what all you are doing about the community, about the society at large. Let's say you have done something good as a part of your social responsibility initiative, and then you can have an event, say an event where you would be planting more trees and a company has taken an initiative to come up with a green patch in a particular area, or to like do something when it comes to cleanliness of that particular community. And this is one way of the company of showing that yes, I have planned this event and as an exercise to let people know that my activities go much beyond that than only selling certain goods and services. I am doing something for the community also, and you can use event as one of the ways to showcase what all the company does. There could be news, there could be, say, holding up of speeches. So you say a CEO can come up with a PR activity where he would be talking about the say the plans and the mission and the vision of the company. Say for next 5 years, they would be talking about what all the company has done so far and how that activity has helped in the prosperity of the economy as a whole, or the prosperity of the nation, or the prosperity of that particular area or sector. You can have the press conferences and press releases. You can go in for public service activities. You can also go in for internet and social networks. Now, for that matter, we know that the firms today want to have that kind of a web presence. When we know that the consumers are also there online, you also as a firm want to connect with the TG on that particular platform, which is an online platform. And we know that social networks, they act as a very powerful source of word of mouth. So you just want to tap that word of mouth, and you want to tap that social network and the online web presence as a means to connect with your TG, and this could also be an effective tool of your public relation activity. Taking it forward, we say we have discussed about what all is good in public relation activity and how one can exercise and what kind of activities and tools can be used. But if there are certain advantages of PR, there are certain limitations of it also. So let us now analyze in what way it benefits the organization and in what ways PR also has a downside. So coming to first of all the advantages of PR activity, we say in the first level it is considered to be credible. Why? Because there is something factual about it that you are going to present, or there is some statements, real work, real activities that you want to share with the TG. So it has much more credibility because you know that it is coming directly from the organization through a press release, through a press conference. So it's a statement of fact, something that you want people to know, which is going to take your organization to a different level altogether, is going to change the attitude that the people may be having, or is going to rebuild the attitude and the credibility that they have in the brand and in the organization. So it has much more credibility in comparison to some other tools of promotions. Cost is a big advantage. So if you, on a relative terms, compare your public relation activities with that of the advertising activities of an organization, you would see a difference. So we'd say where your advertising campaign is going to eat million and million of rupees from your overall budget, the PR activities can be handled with much less cost and with much less expenditure. So this is one big area where you just want to connect and you want to go in for the image and the reputation building rather than on relying on advertising. An effective job can be done through your public relation activities also. Avoidance of clutter, as I've stated that these days, as a part of the integrated marketing communication exercise, firms are also trying to balance out their tools of promotions with something else which is going to break the monotony and the clutter. And the public relation activities score well on that front. So it's you know that so many companies are there when it comes to advertising. So many companies are coming in with the sales promotion offer. So probably this is one way of creating a distinction and breaking the clutter if I come up with some sort of a public relation programs and public relation activities, or I can blend them well with my other tools of promotion to make a difference when it comes to my kind of marketing communication with that of my competing firms. This also gives you a lead generation in the sense that it builds on that kind of a reputation and that kind of a linkage. So it's slowly and gradually tries to link more and more people with the kind of activities that you do. So it's you want more and more people to attach with your organization, and this is one way of telling them that yes, I'm doing a good thing, I'm working for a cause, and probably people can join hands with my organization and can take this cause forward. This has an ability to reach specific groups, especially when you come up with more targeted forms of your public relation activities, online form of your public relation activities. That is something that we have just now discussed in the form of the internet and the social networks. And then no doubt about it that this is something which is an image building exercise. In more so, this is concerned as something which has less to do with promotion of the products and selling, but has more to do with the reputation building of an organization, and therefore image building, corporate image building is something which one more looks at through its PR activities. Coming to the flip side of it, we say that there is also a downside where we find that the communication process as it is done in your PR activities is not a complete communication process, in the sense that there is no direct connect to the source. Like in case of advertising, you know that there is a source. So there is a company which is coming up with the advertising campaign. So there is a advertiser or there is a marketeer and who is talking about the products and the services in the company. So the receiver can actually get back to the source in the sense that you can relate to that particular source and you feel that kind of a connect with the source. But this kind of source in some of the cases, in some of the tools of the public relation is absolutely missing. So there is a press release, there is something quite mechanical about it. So say there is a press release which is going on, or there is a press conference which is going on. So you just cannot connect. The receiver actually do not have that kind of a connect and engagement which probably you find is pretty high when it comes to advertising campaigns. Also, there is often a mismanagement and lack of coordination of PR activities with the other activities of the marketing, especially something which is important when you see the other side of the continuum of PR, where it is having great linkages with the marketing department. So where you are considering your public relation activity or your public relation program as a marketing function, as a part of your marketing program, there a good coordination between the marketing functions and the marketing activities and your public relation activities is required. But if they both start functioning in isolation, they do not gel well together, marketing department is functioning as an isolated department and the public relation department starts functioning as a separate isolated department, things are going to not make much of sense when it comes to the receiver or the target audience. So it's this kind of mismanagement and lack of coordination between the two kind of roles, the marketing and the PR role, often creates a disconnect when it comes to the effective functioning and the effective performance of the public relation activities are concerned. Now students, let us come to the last tool which we can talk about under marketing promotions, and we talk about personal selling and sales management in this case. So we'd say when you talk about personal selling, we'd say in some of the cases the nature of the product or the nature of the market or the nature of the organization is such that you want to have a personal connect with the target audience, and in order to develop that kind of a personal connect, you need to have that face-to-face interaction, a face-to-face communication, for which you have to resort to some other tool of promotions than probably the advertising or sales promotion or PR. And there we talk about personal selling as such a effective tool. So we'd say personal selling is nothing but can be understood as a transaction oriented approach to close a specific sale of a product with a specific customer with a long term goal to develop a mutually profitable relationship. And this relationship or this kind of an interaction can come about either face to face or through a telephonic communication or through a video or a web conferencing. But the fact is that I need to connect with the TG one-on-one. So say advertising is not going to do that role because this is one-to-many kind of communication. Sales promotion is probably not going to do that role because the objective is quite distinct. Public relation is not doing it because you are choosing the internal or the external audience as a group, and this is not one-on-one communication which you are making. So if that is what is required of your promotional campaign, that you want to connect one-on-one, then personal selling is something that you have to choose as your marketing promotional tool. Students, we would in the subsequent session learn more about what is personal selling and how personal selling and sales management can be carried out in an organization. Thank you. Okay, so now let us understand about personal selling and sales management. As we were discussing, personal selling is nothing but a one-on-one kind of an interaction which happens. So there is an individual who is talking with another individual acting for a company, and that individual is acting for a company and is talking and is interacting with say the member of the target audience, either through say a telephonic communication or through video or web conferencing or a face-to-face interaction which is happening. Let us look at the nature of personal selling. Now we say the team of say the sales people or the sales personnel, they cover a wide spectrum of position. There could be people who are just the order takers, so like the departmental store salesperson, or there could be say people who are responsible for getting the order. So they are the order getting salespeople. So someone who would be engaged in creative selling and he would be convincing you that this is a product which is good for you and you should go for it. Many a times you would see that there are people who come to your doorstep and they want you to try a product, or they want to try you with say something, and they try to convince you that the product is going to be good enough for you, and they want to procure an order, they want to close a sale. So these are the people who are the order getters. Or there could be a missionary selling, like building a goodwill and educating the people that there is some new thing which has come up in the market, so that they are well aware of the options that they have as consumers in the market. Whichever way, we say many times the companies do take a call on whether to go for a personal selling or not, primarily on this kind of a fact that they want to have a one-on-one connect with the members of their target audience. This could be a very important aspect for a company to take a decision. Secondly, sometimes the nature of the product is of such a kind that you do not have that distribution channel which is going to support that product. In fact, this remains as one of the preferred channels. Which say many a times you see that companies are known for their personal selling efforts and primarily would not be having any other mode of interacting with their members of the TG, like Eureka Forbes. So we say Eureka Forbes from the very beginning have focused on personal selling as one of their ways in order to reach out to their TG, and they have resorted less on the other tools of promotions which are probably available in the market. Now, we'd say when you talk about personal selling, we see that the salespeople, they can be much more effective than advertising. Why? Because they learn about the customer problems and they adjust their marketing offerings and their presentation style and their presentation strategy accordingly. So, we'd say when I am talking with the member of the target audience directly face on face, I can adjust my overall communication and I can adjust my overall marketing strategy in line with what the customer is facing as a problem and what the customer is looking for as a solution in my overall interaction. This is the reason why when you go to a particular shop and when you deal with the salespeople, at times they are able to pitch in for a sale because they are able to convince you with their overall marketing skills that this is the product that you should go for. So sometimes it turns out to be very, very effective form of marketing your products and services. Also, when we talk about the overall process, we say that there's a lot of adaptability and there's a lot of flexibility which is involved in a personal selling, which probably you lose out on the other tools of promotion. So we'd say when it comes to advertising, you have a script that you follow, and it is not very easy for the advertiser or for a marketer to come up with a different kind of an ad every now and then due to the investment which is involved and the cost which is involved in coming up with the campaigns. But you can always adapt and you can always change your style and your strategy when you are interacting with the person, depending on what kind of interaction is required at that point of time and what kind of skill set is required at that point of time in order to procure an order and in order to close a sale. So we'd say this is something which is much more flexible and gives you a lot of scope while you are interacting with the customer and convincing him and making him buy a particular product or service. The examples of people who are often into this kind of personal selling include your sales people, representatives, account executives, managers, and so on. let us look at the role of the sales force. So, we say when you talk about the sales force, we say the personal selling is effective because the salesperson can do certain things. And these certain things are probe the customers to learn more about their problems. So often you do not know about your problems yourself, and this is the selling personnel who tells you that yes, this is the problem and this is the solution in the form of the product and service that you should try. So let's say they know and they make you aware about the product's use, utility, functionality, and also are able to give you that kind of an awareness and education that this is how the product can solve your problem. So that the connect is very high between the sales representative or the sales people and the consumer. Then we say you adjust the marketing offers just to fit in the special needs of the customer. So at times they are willing to customize the product and do something to that particular product, introduce some sort of a change in that product offering to appeal it better to the customer. They also negotiate the terms of sales. So suppose the price is very high, and if the price is lowered down a bit, probably you would get interested in the product. So you do that. So the lot of negotiation happens because you want to procure an order. There's also a long-term building of the relationships with the key decision making. So it's over a period of time you look forward to the interaction because you know that this person suggested you something good in your previous interaction with the company, in your previous interaction with the store, and next time you want to buy something, you want to go to that particular sales representative whom you feel that there is a certain level of trust that you can establish because of your prior experience with that sales force. The sales force therefore is in a way a critical link between the company and the customer. So say they act as liaison officers where they connect the company with the customer and introduces a lot of flexibility in terms of how the product offerings would be presented and how well the entire communication will revolve in order to suit the requirements and the problems of the member of the TG. Let us talk about how we can manage the sales force, because this is the entire effectiveness of the personal selling depends on how you manage the sales people or your task force. So the managing the sales force actually is the analysis, planning, implementation and control of sales force activities, and all this includes designing a sales force strategy and structure, recruitment and selection of the sales people, training sales people, compensating them and supervising their activities. Let us talk about these all aspects and activities one by one. When you talk about managing the structure and the sales force size, we say sales people are one of the most important, productive, expensive assets of an organization. So it's one has to invest a lot. So when you deal with the sales people, you have to hire just the right kind of people, and you have to focus on what should be the optimal number of sales people in my organization so that I am able to extract best out of them. So it's neither the numbers should be so small that they are juggling between themselves for the activities that they are expected to perform in an organization, nor the number should be so high that none of them is able to put their potential and their abilities to best possible use. So there has to be an optimal number of the sales force. It's just the right size and the number of people who would be working for the organization so that each one of them is performing a distinct role. They know what is expected of them and they are able to just deliver that without the duplication of efforts. Also, the increases in the sales force, because we know that this is an individual which is involved and you are hiring a person on your payroll, it would add on to the cost of an organization, and therefore focusing on the size and the right number of people in an organization is something which matters. Coming on to the next aspect in management of the sales force, which is recruiting and selecting the sales people. So say as a next stage, you have to recruit and you have to select just the right kind of people. Now, why do we think that the careful selection is important? Because your right task force is going to increase the sales performance. It is going to build in the efficiency. So if I know that I have hired the right person for a right kind of job at a right time, I know that I can expect efficient performance from that sales force. On the contrary, if I am going for a poor selection, if I am going to just go in for whatever kind of task force is available, and I am going to hire them without closely looking at what my expectations are and what they are in a position to perform, there could be some problems related to, like, increasing recruitment and training costs. So I would be spending a lot of money in hiring people, but then I won't be making good selection and good recruitment, because of which there would be people in the organization, but they are not suited for that kind of job, which would add to my training expenditure, because then when I have hired people, I have to train them in accordance of what my requirements from the job and from the role are. So there would be lost sales because they won't be putting up their best of efforts. They do not know their job well. There is no compatibility between the kind of people that I have hired and the kind of job which I want them to perform at the end of the day. And it is going to eventually hamper not only the sales but also the kind of relationship that I am going to have with the company. In some of the cases, students, we would understand that my task force is a very, very important element of my organizational working. Sometimes the organizations are known with the kind of people that they hire. So it is very, very important for me as an organization to hire just the right kind of person who can do that interaction well, which is not only going to take my sales volume to a higher level, but is also going to help in nurturing good, effective relationship with my base of TG. I would say at the second level, then I have to understand what all kind of qualities that I am looking for in my task force. So when it comes to some characteristics of the salespeople which will help me in zeroing down just the right kind of people which I should hire in my organization, I would be looking for enthusiasm and self-confidence, persistence, initiative, job commitment. So it's only that these traits are going to help me in getting a person who would then give his or her best for the job. So it's then I can rely and can depend on that kind of a task force to take the job forward and to bring more number of customers to my existing base of customers. And my recruiting procedures in that line would then require aligning well my own requirements with the compatibilities and with the qualifications and the abilities of the task force. Also, once I have done that, my selection process would involve what kind of sales aptitude do they have. So it's do they have this kind of a knack of procuring the orders? If I give them a target to meet, to what extent I can rely on them to fulfill those targets and sales orders? What kind of personality traits do they possess, so that I can rely on them that if they interact with the customer, they are going to close a sale? Do they have that kind of foresight, communication skill, pleasing disposition, which is going to attract the customer to my organization? Then we have what kind of training would be required. So let's say when a person is new to the job, you want them to know little better about the company, about the policies and the programs, about the customers, about the products and services. So let's say the training is given so that the salespeople know and identify with the company. It's only when you know your company well that you are able to transfer this knowledge to the customer. So if the customer asks you about the history of the company, you as a salesperson should be in a position to answer, and you would be able to do that only when you have been trained with that. So you should know your customers well, you should know your company well, you should know your products and services well, and that not only the knowledge is important, but the conviction with which you are able to deliver that knowledge, you are able to transfer that knowledge to the customer is something which is very important in closing a sale and procuring an order. Then you also need to know a lot about the competing firms. So it's not only important for me to understand my company better, but it's also important for me to understand my rival firms. It's only when I know the competitive typology and I know who all are my rival firms that I can do something to procure an order in order to pitch also my company at a little higher level in comparison to the competing firms. I also need to learn as to how to make effective presentations. So when I am dealing with a client, when I am interacting with a customer, I have to have a very good marketing skill set for which I need to conversate in a good manner. I need to make good and effective presentations so that at the end of the day the client is going to deal with my organization and I am able to close that order. Then I say, once I know all this and I've hired a person and I've trained them, I have to see that they are duly compensated. So let's say what kind of compensation is required for them. So let's say the sales force compensation can range from say certain kind of a fixed component to a variable component. Now, why compensating sales force is required? Because you want to motivate the sales force and you want to direct their activities in a particular direction. You just cannot expect sales people to just give you their best or to keep on performing in the organization unless and until you are duly rewarding them for their performance. And one way of rewarding them and appreciating whatever work they do in the organization is to motivate them through the compensation plans. So you can have the compensation plans aligned in such a manner that it gives good motivation to the task force or to the sales people to give their best of the efforts in the furtherance of the organization. So in addition to having some fixed component as the salary, you would also be having some motivation or a variable component in order to motivate the task force. So, it's the fixed amount, usually a salary, it gives the sales force some stability and security. On the other hand, there could be some variable components in your compensation package, which will then talk about the commission or the bonuses, which are directly linked with how well the sales personnel perform. So, this is certain performance linked incentivization that you are going to give you. Also, you incentivize them for maintaining good relationship with the customer or a delivery of long-term value proposition that they are able to deliver to the base of people. So, it's all in all, your compensation package should hold something which is going to give a regular and a stable income to the sales force, and at the same time having enough potential in order to keep on motivating them to improve on their performance. Then comes another step in the ladder of managing the sales force, which is the supervision and the direction. So, it's when it comes to supervising and directing the sales force, we see that the goal of the supervision is to help the sales people work smartly by doing the right things in the right way. So, you are not just telling them what is to be done, but you are also telling them what is the right way of doing certain things. So, it's in some of the cases we will find that it's only when the things are done in a right manner that you are able to grab an order. No doubt your product and service has to be of the best quality in order to click to the customer, but sometimes it's the selling skills which are going to come handy when you want people to buy your product. So, it's not just the good quality, but it's how you are exercising the selling efforts, how you are actually making efforts in order to sell, which at times are very, very helpful in procuring an order. So, the sales people, they need to identify and connect with the customers. They need to develop certain targets, which I have a target to meet in the sense that I want these many orders to be procured by the end of the month. They could use the sales time efficiently in the terms like there could be an annual call schedule. So, every year I need to rope in these many percentages of customers to my existing base of customers, so that I can track that yes, on a normal basis these many people are getting added up to my entire base. There could be time and duty analysis that this was the time which was spent by a sales force or by a team on this particular project, on this particular kind of an task, and how much of responsibility and how much roles they were able to exercise at the end of this time period. So, you would be able to track as to what your sales force are doing, and you are going to keep a check through effective supervision as to what work they are doing and to what extent they are doing it in a rightful manner. Also, when you talk about the Salesforce automation systems, which are nowadays computerized, so say people log into their system, and the moment they check in till the time when they exit, what all work they have done. If you want to keep a tab of it, you are nowadays the firms are actually going in for the automated systems. So they are the digitalized Salesforce operations which let the sales people work more effectively in comparison to the say non-digitalized systems, whereby you are going to track the overall performance, and you are also able to improvise and improve by proper time management systems, by proper customer systems, by bringing down your cost and working at a higher sales performance levels. Let us now understand what could be some other ways of motivating the sales people, which is another step in your management of sales force. Now, we have already seen that there are certain positive incentives which work, which may be in the form of the compensation plans or the salary or some financial incentives, awards, sending them to a trip abroad, giving them certain cash benefits, or running certain sort of contests for them where they are motivated to participate and perform. As against this, there could be assigning of certain quotas. So, let's say I assign a sales quota to my task force and say, okay, if you are going to meet the sales quota, I am going to give you an additional perk, I am going to give you an additional bonus and an incentive. So, quotas are nothing but the standards of performance which you are assigning. So, let's say you tell them that this is how much they should sell, and if they are able to sell that, you are going to reward them for their meeting up of the quotas, which goes very handy in terms of motivating the task force. The third kind of activity which can be built in order to motivate the task force could be creating a positive organizational climate. By this we mean creating a feeling that the sales people have about their organization, about the opportunities, about the reward system that they have. So, it's you have to build in a cordial and a positive organizational climate where people feel and they recognize and they understand that there are enough opportunities for them to grow. And whenever the task force is going to feel that there are enough opportunities for them to grow within the system, they are going to feel motivated enough to provide their best for the furtherance of the organization and its subsequent activities. Let us now understand some of the ways in which the sales force can effectively sell. So, the various steps which are involved in effectively selling your product to the customer involves first prospecting and qualifying. So, let's say I have to understand who could be the probable customer, who probably would be having a need or a problem which could effectively be solved through my products and services. Now, this requires identifying and screening the customer for the potential customers of my product. Prospecting would identify the qualified customers through referrals. So, let's say many a times you get a call where they ask you, okay ma'am, would you refer my product to somebody else who would be having a likely need of the product? You would also be looking out for other base of customers like your suppliers, like your vendors, like your dealers. You would also be identifying certain parameters which would help you in identifying the good prospects from the bad prospects. Also, there would be a pre-approach stage. So, let's say in the second stage of your selling, effective selling, it would be a pre-approach stage where after having identified the potential customers, you would be learning more about them. So, you would be learning as much as it is possible about your customers so that you know what kind of products and services would appeal to them. And pre-approach could be done by visiting the customers to their, say, at their homes, visiting them at their say offices, calling them up, or writing a letter to them. So you seek an appointment. So it's only when you seek an appointment you get to know the customer better. Once you have sought an appointment and you meet the customer either at their residence or their workplace, you approach them with a particular kind of a strategy. So it's I am meeting the customer, then I'm going to present him with what all I have to offer in terms of my products and services. So the approach stage gets to start your relationship building process. So in a way we can say that you would be making the starting off a relationship in this stage. A lot depends on how you open up the relationship, and this for this particular stage you have to have some opening lines ready. So it's if the opening lines of the opening introduction is going to be good enough and is going to hold on to the attention span of the customer and is going to say make him listen to you, you can then build on that particular context, and you can build on that particular communication in order to procure the order eventually. So the opening lines should be positive, they should be kind, they should be able to provide that kind of a conviction to the customer, they should give that basic vital information about the product which will make them feel interested to know more and more about your products and services. And at this point, it is very important for the salesperson to cultivate the art of listening. So it is very, very important for the sales personnel to listen. It's only when I listen to what you have to share and what you have to say as a customer, then only I can come up with a product which is going to be more compatible with your need set and would be more helpful in solving your problems. Obviously, the appearance and the follow-up has a long way to go in order to procure an order. So, in the second stage or in the next stage, I would be handling the objections and I would be presenting and demonstrating. So, if there is a certain prototype which I am handling, I would be showing that prototype and I would be presenting and demonstrating how the product is going to work, what kind of utility is going to provide you. I would be handling the objectives that you might be having with respect to, say, the color choice, the size choice, the specification type, the prices being very high or low. So, I am going to counter all your objections because I want to procure an order from the customer. Also, I would like to close the order by finally writing down a form and filling up the form and taking care of the billing aspects of it. So, the closing is the process where the salesperson would want to wrap up the whole process and would like to procure an order. And in the end, I would also like to go for a follow-up after the sales in order to figure out as to the extent to which the customer felt satisfied and dissatisfied, and also to improvise on my entire process in my dealing with the customers in future. So students, we have learned about the personal selling stages and what makes it effective when it comes to selling through a personal selling program where you are indulging in a one-to-one or face-on-face interaction with a member of your target audience. In the subsequent session, we would be learning more about personal selling, and we would also try to do a comparative evaluation of all the forms of promotional tools that we have learned so far. Thank you.
With this note, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much. And dear friends, if you have any queries, do write to us at info.cc@nic.in. The lecture is going to be uploaded on YouTube soon. We will be meeting again. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you once again.